my name is Megan Rutherford, and I'm going to be presenting my PLC plan from EDOL 647. In attendance in my small meeting is my co-teachers, Jade Miller, who teaches 5th grade social studies, and Nikki Thompson, who teaches 5th grade math. Okay, so my plan revolves around wordly wise vocabulary instruction in 5th grade. In the 5th grade classroom in ELA, since that is what I teach. So my table of contents for our PLC today are first go over the meeting agenda, which we're doing in just a second. Go over my vision statement, my problem statement, which is the problems and the issues that I'm seeing in the ELA classroom in 5th grade, or one specific problem. Intervention articles that intervention and articles. So the intervention that I've chosen to meet this problem, meet this need, and articles that back up that research. Kind of going over the intervention, which is wordly wise vocabulary instruction, what that looks like in the classroom. An intervention schedule, what week 1 of this intervention would look like in the classroom. A modified schedule of this intervention. So you guys know that I did this with a couple of our some of our kiddos, and kind of looking at what we did week 1, went back and revised, and we did this week 2 as well, with some modifications. And then we're going to look at the data between the traditional vocab, kind of the instruction that we have done, using the same word list as the Wordly Wise list, just not using the activities or the schedule that I gave. And then looking at the same set of words, the data from the post-assessment with Wordly Wise instruction. And then next steps. Okay, so our meeting agenda, come to order and introductions, it's taken a couple minutes. Overview of the vision statement and problem, discussion of the implementation of Wordly Wise vocabulary instruction, again, going through those articles, the discussion of interventions, scheduling, and the traditional versus the Wordly Wise data, and the possible next steps, and closing this meeting. First, do you guys have any questions? Okay, so my vision statement is, my classroom is a positive and safe environment where I strive to ensure the needs of all students are met. As an educator and a lifelong learner, I effectively collaborate with teachers and families in order to successfully implement approaches to advance my classroom instruction. My students are provided with tools, strategies, and schema necessary to become successful lifelong learners themselves. All right, so my problem, and again, you guys have had these kids right along with me. I'm sure you probably see it in your content area of vocabulary, not just ELA. In my 5th grade ELA classroom, my students struggle heavily with acquiring and applying vocabulary knowledge. My students do pretty well recognizing vocabulary that comes from our weekly stories, but struggle to grasp the concept of multiple meaning words, and therefore it hinders their reading comprehension. According to quarterly STAR reading assessments, my 5th grade students are currently scoring in the 3rd to 4th grade range in vocabulary proficiency. So obviously we want to get that up coming into a new school year. With them starting 5th grade, we definitely want to see at least 75% of our kiddos in that proficient distinguished range, and a big part of that is vocabulary. Okay, so the intervention that I've chosen is Wordly Wise 3000. It's a by grade curriculum, and some articles that back it up. Is one article in particular I saw that went heavily into the benefits of Wordly Wise and the successes of using Wordly Wise in the classroom, are right here if you're interested in looking that up. Okay, so Wordly Wise 3000 provides direct academic vocabulary instruction to develop the critical link between vocabulary and reading comprehension. We've used Wordly Wise before, and so you guys see that, and really using this group that I use for this project showed that intensive instruction that Wordly Wise has. It is Common Core Standard aligned, which is great. The weekly word lists are about 10 words long, which I think is a perfect amount, and they're split into 5 different daily activities. So Monday through Friday, you can split your vocabulary instruction up and fill that time with Wordly Wise. And then Wordly Wise is also partnered with Quizlet to provide an additional study tool for the word lists and other ways for kids to study outside of the classroom. And here are what some of the strategies the activities look like. They're split into, like, this is just an example, but it'll go weekly. So 1A, 2B, 2C, 2D, 2E, and then as the weeks go on, they get higher. So yes, those are what those activities kind of look like at a glance. All right. So Monday is kind of what our instruction would look like. Basically, just setting up the activities daily. 2A Monday, 2B Monday, 2C Wednesday, 2D Thursday, and then 2E Friday. 2E also kind of serves as a summative, which is great. It's kind of like a two birds in one stone. And that assessment is a reading passage. So it's really what our kids are struggling with, reading a passage and applying that vocabulary, multi-meaning words from reading passages to real life. With some modifications after week 1, I saw that I think some of the activities were better in small groups, just to give more of that one-on-one instruction. We have about 15 kids, you guys know that, obviously, in class, and some of the structures from the activities I think would be a lot better from the previous week if I would have gotten more one-on-one instruction, especially at the beginning and towards the end, just to kind of gauge how much they had grown throughout the week with that vocab. So I added that to our schedule on Tuesday and Thursday. And then as you can see, so at the top we have the traditional assessments, Wordly Wise kind of round 1, so with no modifications, with just week 1 schedule, and then round 2 of Wordly Wise with the modifications. And as you can see for student 1, just for example, they scored around a 75, and then they scored like probably in the 60s, and then close maybe like a 73, and then past a 75. If you notice the trend here, all of the instruction, which I'll scoot up so you can see all of these students, which 6 students were pulled for this instruction, all of them started, and they were pretty average students, I would say, but with the set words, with 5th grade vocabulary words, the same set of words, with traditional instruction, they scored well below average. I think the highest was close, like maybe 73. So they're difficult 5th grade level words, which they need, but with just traditional instruction, they're not making those connections. But as you can see, with any kind of Wordly Wise instruction, whether it was with the small group modification or not, those grades are significantly higher. So it's just something to note. I very much think the rigor of the activities has to do with that. The next steps for this data, after analyzing this data, I concluded that Wordly Wise 3000 vocabulary instruction program was effective in improving my students' understanding of weekly vocabulary. My plan is to continue to implement this program during my vocabulary instruction, so using my time daily to instead of just picking out random words and doing some vocabulary activities every now and then, using this week by week structure, I think, is very effective for my kids. I will continue to make modifications and improvements to increase. So obviously nothing is perfect the first time. As you can see from week 1, I made modifications for week 2. And as I continue this program, I definitely will continue to tweak and make some things my own. And then Wordly Wise science and social studies versions do exist of this. So that is something, Jade and Nikki, you could possibly look into. And they're solely science and social studies based words. And with this rigor, I think it would definitely benefit them. That's something that we can maybe talk to Mr. Bradley about in the future. I hope in our next meeting, sorry I didn't finish that slide, in our next meeting, we'll kind of continue to progress and monitor how we are doing with Wordly Wise and make any adjustments if we need to. Okay, thanks.